state first that I only agreed to give this interview because of the assistance that the UPA gave us during the war in 1944, and we owe them probably my life and anyway a successful journey to freedom. After the war was over, very soon we all were demobilized and sent home by the German authorities. Then I studied first at the university, but at a certain time you had to sign a declaration more or less for loyalty to the German authorities. And I didn't do that, and a lot of fellow colleagues, students didn't do it either. So I had to stop the studies. We didn't expect it at all because I was in civilian clothes, had nothing with me. And we were taken prisoner there and put on a train and transported to Nuremberg. After some time, we officially were declared to be prisoners of war. And then after some time, we were transported to STANISLAV. So mostly it was organized and you had to apply and say, I'd like to escape. And that we heard that the camp should be evacuated, moved to another, the prisoners would be moved to another area in Germany probably. In that building there was a theater set up, a very small one. It was a big room, a very big room, and in front of it, on one end the stage on which all sorts of things happened by the cadets, plays. And there was about 8 meter deep and high enough, let's say maybe 70 centimeters, to crawl under it and to hide yourself. The night before, let's say the transportation day, 2 of our colleagues went to the theater hall and had a lot of black wallpaper with them and other things. And they, during the night, they installed and constructed what we call an imitation rear wall. Well, the next morning, this was the last roll call before the transportation. As soon as the roll call was over, the group of 7, ran to the theater hall to get under the stage. We were just in the theater hall when there came a signal alarm. The Germans are approaching. So we dived more or less through the prompter's hole under the stage, the 7 of us. And then the Germans were already in the hall, in the room. So we were lying there still. All the cadets came over our heads. And in the meantime, we were crawling around to get behind that imitation wall. And it was very quiet in the room because there were only 3 or 4 Germans. And then we had to be awfully still, of course, silent. Because any noise we should have made at that time would have been heard by the German soldiers in the room. Personally, I found that one of the most difficult, dangerous moments at all. Well, later they found out because as soon as all the cadets had been searched, there was another roll call outside, and then 7 cadets were missing. We had been under the stage for 36 hours. That evening, our leader went out again and said, let's move, let's go out. So then we went out and prepared to get out of camp. It was not so easy because all the gates were closed and locked. And then Siep and I decided to split up from the other group and go on our own. Let's not talk, but let's get out. So we managed to get over the barbed wire. We went to the main guardhouse, and there we went over the fence in the street in Stanislav, and then we went up to the Carpathian in the direction of Hungary, what we hoped for. That was the escape. But we kept on marching and marching, and the only contact we had was when we were in a haystack, or a straw stack it was, I believe. Sip and I were resting there. Sometime we heard noise and a dog barking, and then I put my head out of the straw stack outside, and then I saw below me, I saw a young lady and a little dog barking, and I was full of straw, and I said, "Hello," I said, because the young lady, a moment later, she came, hello, as she got, was frightened like hell, woo, off she went with the dog, and we went the other way. That was not an official contact. Later in the afternoon we came to, let's say, woods and forest, and in the distance you could see the hills coming up, and but it started to snow and it was getting dark. I said against Siep, what are we going to do if we meet wolves and bears and other things? And Siep said, running and going on, get rid of them. He said, "Oh, that's nice." So we were tired, you can imagine that, and we needed a rest place, but we didn't see anybody. I said against Siep, I see two figures over there in the wood. He said, "It's impossible." I said, "Oh, see there, they are coming." And I started to cry, "Kom eens mal her, kom eens mal her." And they came in our direction, and they came from one tree to another, and then suddenly, very close to us, they pointed their rifles in our direction, and they started to shout, "Nieder, nieder, nieder." And they looked rather dangerous in our eyes, because in our opinion they were full of weapons and ammunition, belts. And then we in no time we were lying flat on our face in the snow, and then we had to stand up, and on the double we had to go further in the woods. Let's say 5 minutes later or 10 minutes later came back these two other partisans, and one of them spoke German, and he interrogated us, and we said, "Well, we are from Stanislav, we are escaped prisoners of war," and so on. No, okay. And then we had to follow him, and the guards were walking behind us, and then we went downwards a little bit, and then suddenly we were in a camp with some tents, I very believe, and a number of people over there. And campfire was burning, and there we were invited to sit down, and we got to eat. Very friendly people at that moment, and having dinner with them. We remember there was one big pot on the table, and everybody got a spoon, and then we were eating all together. It was excellent meal, super. Well, then we started the conversation, who we were, and they told us that who they were, and well, they told us that they belonged to the insurgent army, to the UPA, and that they fought for Ukraine and fought against the Russians, and they fought against the Germans, and they fought against everybody. But that was at that moment our idea anyway. And they asked us if we would join them, and then we said, well, actually we don't speak their language, and well, they understood that, and they appreciated it. And then they said, well, we are going to bring you to Churchill. We said, well, that's fine, that's just what we need. Therefore we escaped. So we were very happy, Siep and I, and well, the discussion was very pleasant. We actually met and lived with them as they lived in the forest. Later on we went to all farmhouses. We got an idea that it was military organized. They said, well, we are in control of the woods, and they were not afraid for the Germans. They told us that the Germans didn't dare to get there, only in very big numbers. So they said, we control the area, and we even go to STANISLAV to walk around at night, and if we see a German, he is headed. And we take his gun and etc. There was a woman in the camp. She was or a doctor, or she had studied medicine or things like that. And but we later on during our journey with the UPA people, we said, "May I have your name? I'll write it down and send you a card, etc." And they said, "No, no names, no writing, no nothing. Forget about it." So it was an unbelievable fight that they had to keep up over there. And the Russian partisans and the German armies. You can just imagine. And that they kept fighting up so long. And then about midnight, I think it was, two nice big sleighs were coming up with nice horses, partisans in the first one, partisans in the second one, and we too in the second one, nicely on a bench, you know. And then we went through the Carpathian, very comfortable tour for sightseeing. And they were singing nice songs, and we had to sing too. So in the morning at 5 o'clock we arrived at a farmhouse, a small farmhouse. And there was a lady, she came out of the bed, and after some time we went into the bed to sleep. That was we felt ashamed more or less, but they said, no, you go there and sleep. It was very, the hospitality at that moment was unbelievable. Stayed there a day or so, and mostly at night, the next evening, mostly in the evening, there came a group of people, and they took us away, and then we made the tour in the night to another house, and so it went 2 or 3 times, and then the last tour we made alone, when we ended up at 4 o'clock in the night, I stumbled over something, and then I heard a Dutch curse, and there we were in the house where all the others already were.
So they actually were bringing you from various places to one farmhouse.
Well, what we found out later, that Siep and I escaped from Stanislav, and we went in, let's say, the southwesterly direction, trying to get to Hungary. So we were in a quite different region than the others, because the others jumped from the train very much more to the north, and so we were maybe 40 or 40 miles apart from the others, where they picked up more or less in the vicinity of the Dniester. But I have heard that some of them were picked up crossing a bridge, and others in that area, and we were in more in the Black Forest. In the Carpathian foothills, the beginning of the Carpathian. There's the whole group all together and escorted to Hungary. Well, of course, we had learned in school about the history of the Soviet Union and the several states it consisted of, and also we had heard about the national feelings of different groups in the Soviet Union, but I didn't know too much about it, really, just superficial knowledge. I had read about Mr. Konovalec, who was assassinated in Rotterdam in 1938, I believe it was. It was news on the papers, so that's what I heard about. The first time I heard actually about resistance, the UPA organization in the Ukraine. But we knew that part of the population was friendly to us, should be friendly to us. It was an exciting adventure. It was going at night in the snow on a sledge, a big horse in front of you. Well, it was unbelievable. It is unimaginable. It has been, I have told it sometimes to people in the Netherlands, and they said it is an unbelievable story. That you could survive, that you survived, that you had the fortune to meet the UPA, because we were not, Siep and I were not, we met the UPA. I told you yesterday, we are good navigators, we navigated directly to the middle of the camp of the UPA.